you have to create a plan right from the foundation to target the right roles. And there are roles that are published and posted, and then there are roles that are never posted. Okay, so how to tap into that unpublished market, that invisible market, right? This is also something a career coach, at least the right career coaches help you with. Your career is like a living, breathing organism, and building great careers requires nurturing them with strategic guidance. Hi, my name is Savan Kapoor, and I'm India's leading career coach, also known as the Career Guy. Welcome to the Career Headquarters. The most comprehensive career podcast on the internet, where I will bring you groundbreaking insights on everything career related. Whether you're seeking a career abroad or wanting to switch industries, whether you are entry level or a mid-career professional or a senior leader, I have seen it all. As an award-winning CEO of one of the largest and most profitable beverage alcohol companies, my career spanned 3 continents, multiple industries, and provided me with an accelerated roadmap to the very top. So if you want to build an exceptional career and 3x your paycheck, this podcast is for you.
Welcome to another episode of Career Headquarters, the most comprehensive career podcast. Hi Savan, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good as well. So this episode today is all about misaligned careers. It's all about how working professionals suddenly find themselves in the wrong job and then they have no idea what to do from there. So to begin with, what is a misaligned career and why do people land up in such serious career issues in the first place?
I think the best way to answer this question is to understand, what are the distinct stages that you're going to experience, over the totality of your career. And I've created this framework where, please understand you're going to have 6 distinct stages over the course of your career. So the first stage of anyone's career is what is known as the aspiration stage. Now, this is the first stage, and it typically comes up in your final year of college, in your final year of education, right? Right before you're about to enter the workforce. And the goal of this stage is, you should know what you want to do. If you've played the game right in this stage, you should know what you want to do and should be able to associate with that discipline or activity sustainably. Because, this is a very critical choice. You're going to be engaged with that career for years, right? So very important to discover what your interests are, what your passions are, and choose something that you find meaning in. The second stage of the career is the promise stage. Now, this is when you're new into the workforce. You've now got a job, you're pretty new in the work world, and you've been hired because it is the promise of your potential that drives your value. See, at this point, the amount of experience you have is very light. It's not significant. But it was the promise of your potential that got you hired. Somebody took a chance on you because of the way you interacted with them in that job search and application journey. So this is a stage where you really need to understand how work is done, right? Because this is no longer a theoretical world. It's a very practical world. You are now responsible for yourself, you're earning money, and you have to create value every single day to be able to take that paycheck home in a sustainable way. So if you play the game right in the promise stage, which is learning by observation, learning by listening and not speaking, then you will progress to the next stage. And that next stage is really a make or break stage when it comes to careers. It's called the momentum stage. And the best way to define that stage is that this is a stage where solid performance leads to solid opportunities. This is also the stage where you can start to be headhunted. If you're good and you're building your visibility and influence the right way, then this is a stage where you will be approached by, the best of companies to come and jump ship and come onto their payroll.
So how many years of experience do people usually have?
It's not fixed. You can accelerate.
What's the range?
I would not want to give it a range here. And the reason is that there are people, it's kind of like being successful. Colonel Sanders was successful at the age of 65. He opened KFC at the age of 65. And there have been people like Mark Zuckerberg who were successful as a college dropout. So, I don't want to give this a range. I want, our audience to really pick up on the spirit of this. The third stage is that momentum stage, and as I was saying, that's the make or break stage. This is the stage of solid hard work. This is the stage where you're going to build your reputation, right? And if you play the game right in this stage, then you will go on to the next stage, which is the harvest stage. And as the name implies, you are now reaping what you have sown. The harvest stage can create a tremendous amount of opportunities. You can continue further as a senior professional in your career. You can join the boards of organizations. You can be an entrepreneur. You can create a small consulting practice. So this is really a stage that is represented by options. And not everybody makes it to the harvest stage. Many people's careers end in the momentum stage. But if you make it to the harvest stage, then, of course, you are now a senior professional. And if you play the game right in the harvest stage, you will go to the next stage, which is actually my favorite stage. And that is called the encore stage. So the word encore in the English language means that grand finale, that ending piece, that perfect performance. And this is where you really get to paint your masterpiece, right? So Sundar Pichai is an example of somebody who at a fairly young age is in the midst of a beautiful encore stage, as the CEO of the largest technology company in the world, he's really getting to paint his, masterpiece. And then if you play the game right in that stage, if you can consistently produce the returns and build something of unique value, enduring value, then you will go on to the last stage, the sixth stage, which is the legacy stage. What did your professional life stand for? How will you be remembered? Not just the professional accomplishments you had, but also the human values you brought to your work world. Ratan Tata is a great example of somebody who's developing and has a tremendous professional legacy. Okay, so a career becomes a misaligned career when you do not follow the mandate of a stage. So, for example, as I was explaining, the first stage is the aspiration stage. See, the mandate of this stage is to discover what your passion is, what your purpose is, what you want to do. And to be able to do that, you have to test drive, a few career choices in greater depth. So if you get the mandate right, you will achieve the alignment. You will come to understand what it is that you are passionate about so that you can do it in a meaningful, in a substantial way, make a mark, make a dent, and be able to receive that professional fulfillment and do a great job, earn a great salary as well. So that's the goal, that's the mandate of that stage. If you play the game right there, then you will have alignment and you will move to the next stage in a smooth manner. And the next stage, for example, is the promise stage, right? So the mandate of the promise stage is to learn through observation, okay? Really, your career is your responsibility. It is not your company's responsibility. It is not your boss's responsibility or your parents or siblings or friends or anybody else's responsibility. Your career is your own responsibility. And the mandate of this stage is to keep your mouth shut and to keep your ears and your eyes open, to pick up why people are behaving the way they are behaving, especially the ones who are successful. So ask yourself the question, who is successful in this environment and why? Okay, that will help you understand what works in the specific company or situation that you're in, right? So if you get the mandate of the stage right here, then you will move to the next stage. And the next stage is the momentum stage. And as I stated, the momentum stage is where you have now been identified as a good egg. You're somebody who's hardworking, who makes positive contributions. And there is a saying that get into the queue that is the longest. Because I think the wisdom there is get into the queue that's the longest because That's the queue where work is happening. That's why there is demand for that person and the queue is long. That's the point that I'm trying to make. So, solid results in your promise stage, coming out of your promise stage, will lead to solid opportunities. And that's what the momentum stage is about. And like I said, this is also a stage where, you can be headhunted. But please understand, this is the stage of hard work. This is not the stage where you will create balance. This is the stage where you need to put in 24/7. You want to achieve a great career, you're going to have to give a lot of time to it. So this is the grunge stage. This is where you're in the battlefield. Now, what I do see is that misaligned careers typically happen in these first three stages. If you make it past the momentum stage, the chances of getting misaligned decrease dramatically, right? Because to make it past the momentum stage, not only do you need to have subject matter expertise, but you also need to have learned a tremendous amount of interpersonal skill. How you relate with the world around you, how you tackle challenge and difficulty and stress and pressure and deadlines and all of that. So, the drop off in being misaligned is significant. The other thing that I want to state here is that a lot of people get misaligned right at the beginning because of peer pressure or parental pressure. There was a time, especially in our country, where I think everybody wanted their son or daughter to be a software engineer. IT is one of our biggest exports. It's a very major industry. And we Indians are excellent at, information technology. But it's not for everyone, right? There was a very popular movie recently, Three Idiots, where, the father wanted the son to be an engineer, but he wanted to be a photographer. So, you have to want it. Your father wants it for you. I can understand the place that father was coming from, but you have to want it, right? Because otherwise you're asking a cat to behave like a fish. And that cat is going to have a nervous breakdown at some point because it cannot swim like a fish. It's not that the cat has gone mad. It's just not a fish. So, you cannot live in someone else's priorities. And neither can you ask someone to live in your priorities. Anybody who's married, you're not, so I know you don't get this fully. But anybody who's married will understand this, I love you, you're perfect, now change. It doesn't work like that, right? So there is no right and wrong here, right? Everybody has their own set of what is most important to them. Some people are dedicated to their health and their fitness. Some people are dedicated to building a great career and or building a great business. Some people are dedicated to relationships and family. Yet others are dedicated to being spiritual. I mean, so there's no right and wrong here. What's important is to understand what's right for you, right? So you need to define that value system. That is very critical. If you get that right, you will have a smooth journey through the stages.
Now that brings me to an interesting point. You spoke about the 6 stages of an extraordinary career and how people go through them in a certain order. So is it possible for professionals to skip any of the steps?
That's a very good question. No. The short answer is no. You cannot skip a stage. You can accelerate your journey through a stage. You can accelerate it to a very significant degree. And in fact, that's one of the outcomes of my program is you should be able to accelerate your journey where you can achieve in 1 year what somebody has taken 3 years to achieve. You can achieve in 1 month what somebody else has taken 3 months to achieve. What the career that you will land up building in 10 years, somebody who doesn't have the understanding of these methodologies will take 30 years to build. So imagine the amount of progress that the accelerated exponential progress that you can create by working with someone who has walked this journey, who's done the R&D for you. So yeah, you can't skip a stage, but you can accelerate your journey through a stage. And it all goes back to how uncommon a problem can you solve and over what period of time can you solve it. If you can accelerate results, the system will start opening up for you and give you opportunities faster, more meaningfully, and in greater frequency. That's how accelerated careers are built. So, excellent question.
All right. So now we know what a misaligned career means. How can one begin fixing it?
I think it goes back to the basics. The first step to understanding there is a problem is identifying the problem, right? So you have to diagnose where you went wrong, right? And that is why I work on this personal alignment with the student in such great depth, because if you don't have that personal alignment, the career strategies will not yield sustainable results, right? You have to win in your own eyes first. That personal victory comes before your public victory. Working to identify what are your highest priorities, right? If your career got misaligned, what other pain points are you facing? What is your purpose? Why do you get out of bed every day, right? Understanding what will be the milestones on that career journey. So if you want a fulfilled life and a fulfilled career, then what will be the milestones? Okay, that roadmap, what will it look like? What would be those meaningful points of progress that you want to achieve? And lastly, how will you allocate your time? Because see, everything in your life is fighting for your time. You have responsibilities at work, you have responsibilities at home, you have a family to take care of, you may have aging parents, you may have in-laws, you probably have children, you have a boss, you have family, friends, you have your own downtime, time to unwind and recharge, you have your health. Now all of this is fighting for your time. And if you don't create the clarity of what gets time and what doesn't get time, then you are coming from a place of fighting fires. Whatever becomes most urgent and most important will land up getting your time, right? And that's not living by design, that's living by default. When you live by default, you turn into a follower. When you live by design, you turn into a leader. And living as a follower requires no effort. But living by design, living as a leader, requires concentration, focus, stamina, all of those things. So, you have to create a plan right from the foundation to target the right roles. And there are roles that are published and posted, and then there are roles that are never posted. Okay, so how to tap into that unpublished market, that invisible market, right? This is also something a career coach, at least the right career coaches help you with. Mastering your professional totality. What are your skills, your talents, your education, your experiences, your knowledge, and your qualities, and very importantly, working on your attitude. So aligning all of this with the pain points or the opportunities that a company is experiencing. Like I said, you are like a key. You cannot open every lock, but there are some locks that only you can open. And then either the system, the culture that's at play will enable you or it will disable you, right? Because see, in life, we get to choose who our friends are, right? We have something common with someone, we develop a friendship with them. But you don't get to choose who you work with. There is a pre-existing condition at play there. There are pre-existing personalities that have already been developed. There is a value system that's already operating there. And if you don't know how to scan for that before you accept the job, then you may land up in a situation where you feel trapped. Because the ground reality of working for a company versus what a job looks like on paper can be two very, very different things. It's a very common pain point that a lot of people experience in their careers. So, this how to prepare for the interaction and screen for this. How do you get to know the company? Why do you start liking the company? How will you have the trust that yes, there is no difference between what the job looks like on paper and what it's actually going to be? There are strategies there to be able to uncover all of this information, because if you have especially been subject to such situations before, you've been burnt by hot milk, you're even going to blow on a cold drink, right? So it's very important to keep all of this in mind, because a lot of people, they land up facing that permission paradox. The permission paradox is where you can't get the job without the experience, and you can't get the experience without the job. So a lot of people land up into these situations where they aspire for better things, but they can't, it's out of reach because they don't know how to bridge that gap to make that their reality. And again, it all goes back to a misaligned career. So, this could include industry transitions, functional transitions, or both. So it's very critical to create a plan and work with somebody who has the experience to diagnose a misaligned career and then to be able to work your way out of it.
So, say there's a working professional who's done the diagnosis properly and understood that they're in the wrong job, and now they want to switch an industry or a function. What do they do?
I think we have a dedicated podcast on switching industries and functions, but at this point, I want you to understand just the basics, the basis of this. So please understand there are 3 types of shifts. One shift is just shifting industries, one shift is shifting functions, and one shift is shifting both. Now, shifting industries is the easiest kind of transition, right? Shifting functions is moderately difficult, and shifting both industry and function is pretty difficult. It's not easy, right? And again, you need a plan to be able to do this successfully. So business functions, the reason it's the easiest is because business functions apply across most, if not all, industries. Sales, information technology, marketing, operations, human resources, accounts, finance, product development, R&D, supply chain. Now, these functions exist across multiple industries and businesses. May it be FMCG or retail or oil and gas or telecom, healthcare, BPO, IT, education, academics. They exist across multiple industries. Industry understanding is quite practical to build, right? But functional understanding is much more difficult to come by, right? So if you've built a career in finance, right? You went to school or college for finance, and now you want to move into IT. The functional knowledge you need to gain is going to be very different. In one, you were looking at financial statements. You were learning how to build a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement. Here, you're learning how to write code. It's 2 entirely different subjects, right? So this is the value of the education system, because this helps you open that door to that functional area, right? It creates that baseline of knowledge that allows you to play the game there, right? That subject matter expertise that you need in IT is very different from the subject matter expertise that you need in finance. That's why functional changes are harder. But when you want to change industries and functions, that's the hardest kind of shift. Now, this is going to be a 6 to 10 month, maybe a year-long project, right? And for this, you need to develop a accelerated dual learning plan. You need to understand and build that industry knowledge. You also need to build that functional knowledge. You need to build it to a point where you will be able to convince someone that you're worth it, to be able to take the bet on you. And for that, you need to deeply integrate all of your transferable skills. Skills such as strategy and analytics, your marketing and presentation abilities, your communication, your language abilities, your soft skills of being able to exert influence and build relationships, your process and technology skills, your project management and coordination skills. So these are all skills that are your transferable skills. You need to integrate them very deeply into the new industry and the new function. And then you need to learn how to market them, right? Building or showcasing your ability that you can bring worth to the table, right? That interaction, that brand that you're setting about, your involvement, your experience, all of that needs to start working in a positive way to get you to be able to cross that tipping point, that breakthrough barrier. So it has to be a customized application of all what I've just said. And that is where, learning how to build a compelling value proposition, in a new area, showcasing that you have the ability to learn and deliver value in a new area, showing that off of your past track record. See, this is why employers look at resumes, because they want to make an assessment of what's the very best that they can expect from you. Because your past success or your past failure is the best indicator of your future success or your future failure. So, I can tell you in my own career, I made a shift from the consulting industry to the beverage alcohol industry. Okay, two very different industries. I made a shift from sales and business development to finance. And then I made several other functional shifts. I have a student who recently made a shift from a B2C business, which was, he was in customer experience. And he's gone to an entirely different field very successfully within a 90-day period. He's gone from customer experience to finance, right? And he's gone from a B2C industry to a B2B industry. He's gone from, he was in the FMCG world and he's gone to the building materials industry. Two very different industries. The point again here is all of this can be done if you have a proper plan supporting it. It's not going to happen just because you desire it. You have to put a proper and a realistic plan. So you need to ask yourself, are you following a path that is practical, or is it just too long and elongated and not easily adopted? These are complicated shifts, especially places where you're shifting industry and function. So if you don't have a realistic, tried and tested methodology that produces results, you're going to land up wasting a lot of time in hit and trial. So.
Thank you for that. My next question is, can a side hustle help to save someone's misaligned career?
A side hustle is all the rage right now, isn't it? I mean, the gig economy, where everybody wants to be their own boss. It's partially what is driving the great resignation in countries like the US and, even in the IT sector here. I can tell you right now, TCS, HCL, some of these larger firms, I think in the last quarter, TCS has hired 77,000 new employees. Oh, wow. Because the attrition rate is just going crazy. Everybody wants to be their own boss because, technology is enabling you to monetize your expertise in a way like never before. But the sad truth is, for every success story we hear where somebody was able to create a sustainable, profitable side hustle, you don't hear of the millions who failed. And a lot of young people are getting attracted to the allure of, being able to work from anywhere. You want to sit in the Himalayas, or you want to sit on a beach in Goa, or you want to be somewhere in Kerala, or you want to be in the deserts of Rajasthan and be able to work. All you need is an internet connection. And of course, there are more exotic locales also, like Thailand and Singapore and Dubai and all of that. You want to have that freedom to be able to experience the world. And it's great, but please understand there is a certain wisdom that comes with age. There is a certain wisdom that comes from experiencing life, right? And again, there is no limit to it. There's no factor to it. There are people who are more intelligent at 25 than there are people at 55. So I'm not trying to stereotype this, but a side hustle will be able to help you fix a misaligned career if that experience has already come. It's not have you reached a particular age, it is if the experience has already come. And what that means is if you have true subject matter expertise in that area, plus the interpersonal mastery of how to build relationships, so the hard knowledge and the soft skills, once that comes together, that is where magic happens. But please understand, entrepreneurship is a much harder journey than being an employee. The risk that an entrepreneur takes, dealing with banks, cash flows, making sure the salaries are paid on time, making sure you're building a sustainable business model, that customers are coming in the right frequency, in the right order, regularly, the transaction size is right, you have a diversified product portfolio. It's very well said that an entrepreneur is somebody that jumps from a cliff and has to build their wings on the way down. Another really, good statement I heard was, an entrepreneur is someone who chooses to live a few years of their life in a way so that they can live the rest of their life in a way that others can't. They choose to live a few years of their life like others won't, so that they can live the rest of their lives like others can't. So entrepreneurship is not for everyone. It's a really hard journey. And that side hustle is not really a side hustle. It's going to take everything. So if you're not committed to stretching yourself to 16, 18 hours a day, then don't enter it. Don't go into the restaurant business just because you like to cook. Because there's a lot of other things that you will also have to do, like maintain the books and hire staff and take inventory and all of those other things that are not as glamorous or as enjoyable as cooking, for this side hustle. And I use the example of the food business because it's a business that almost everyone at some point in their lives consider. I can always open a restaurant, I can have a little stall where I serve Chinese noodles, so it's because the barriers to entry to that is very low. So a side hustle can alleviate the problem, but you must have the maturity to take on what you're taking on. And let me tell you, especially starting out, a side hustle is not a side hustle. It's going to take everything. You cannot run away from a job and go into a side hustle and expect to make it. Employment is much easier. So what's happened here is you could not solve a less complicated problem, and now you want to jump into a more complicated problem and try to solve it. And you've convinced yourself that you'll make it here, and there were reasons why you didn't make it in the employment, in the job. So if that's not hitting you in the head and making you wake up, then you're just fooling yourself. And see, if you lie to yourself, you are further away from success than if you're depressed because of failure. And you will become depressed because of failure because you lied to yourself. That's the next stage. You'll start getting closer because failure is not final, right? Don't let it define you. But the point here is, like, for example, I went from a B2B lighting professional. I was in the wine business. I did really well there. I achieved my goals of getting to be a CEO and run, a very large, very profitable setup that I created and built from scratch. And then I came into my family business, which was India's oldest lighting company. And, I was able to do well there. And then I went into what was my passion, which was, career coaching, because I really felt I had something to give there. Now, in all of these places, my subject matter expertise and my ability to build relationships had gone past that tipping point. You don't get to become the CEO of a multi-$100 million company and sustainably grow it if that hasn't happened. So, you need to ask yourself, because my own journey is testament to this, and I believe very deeply in it. I started my wine career, I think it was 2006. And I used this system that I now teach to be able to get that job, which paid me 4.5 times of my previous salary. And then within 8 months, I had doubled that salary. And then within 2 years, I had tripled that salary. So when I went through acceleration like this, I came to understand that, the limitation is in your head. Your past salary has nothing to do with your future income potential. The limitation is only the limitation that you've built for your own self. And please understand that. After that, came into the family business, grew it over there. I got a taste of now, my own business. I was in my own business. It's much easier to spend someone else's money, to invest someone else's money. But when it's your own, the fear that you feel, the risk that you take, it all changes. And then to come to this opportunity, which in itself is a small practice, but it has scaled to, over 1 lakh clients. So, developing something that can scale in this way started as a side hustle. Today, this takes the majority of my time because, I've set the teams and I've set the operations on that side. So a side hustle can do it, but that personal alignment comes first. If you don't know your purpose, if you don't know your passion, if you don't know the milestones on that journey, if you don't know how you're going to allocate your time, what you're going to say yes to and what you're going to say no to, then a side hustle will not help you, overcome a misaligned career. It's like you're learning how to swim, you're finding it difficult to swim in the swimming pool, and you now want to jump into the English channel, it's not going to work, and don't kid yourself that it's going to work. So that would be my thought on a side hustle.
So the answer is yes, with conditions.
Yes, with conditions. Yeah, for the right people, it will be a phenomenal option. If you have developed the subject matter expertise where you're able to solve a deep problem, and you have to ask yourself that, what problem are you solving? Will this allow somebody to reach the outcome that they are desiring in a faster, cheaper, better, more efficient, more reliable way? If you've developed that depth of expertise and you know how to work the relationships, because we don't do anything alone, then a side hustle can be a phenomenal thing.
All right, thank you. So the next question is, how can a working professional understand if they are in a misaligned career, or they're simply experiencing all the challenges and issues that any working professional will go through in their career journey?
I think the best way to answer this question is that there is a risk to trying to diagnose it by yourself. Just the way you should not self-medicate, and a lot of people use Google and they think they are as qualified as a medical professional, and then they experience something by trying to medicate themselves, taking an antibiotic or taking some medicine that has, that's not right for them. So don't try to do this yourself. The simplest advice I can give you here is work with a career coach, work with an expert. See, because please understand this. For example, a fish lives in the ocean. So a fish has no concept of land. As far as a fish is concerned, a fish has no concept that land exists because it's never experienced land. For a fish, land is an entity that it does not exist. It does not occur anywhere, right? Can a fish guide a marathon runner? Can't, because it doesn't have experience of that environment. For it, that environment doesn't exist. So please understand, you're trying to fix a problem in an environment where you have very limited knowledge of that environment, because this is something that is not taught in the formal system of education. You didn't learn this in your schooling years or your college years or your master's degree. So expertise will accelerate your journey, and an expert will be able to help you make an appropriate diagnosis, because they'll hold your feet to the fire, right? Otherwise, you'll land up spending so much time experimenting in hit and trial that time is not going to come back. Can you run faster at the age of 50, or can you run faster at the age of 30? You're only going to be 30 once. You're only going to be 40 once. You're only going to be 50 once. So the sooner you catch this, you don't have to burn your own hand to realize that fire is hot, right? You can learn by seeing someone else burn their hand, right? So my advice is, if you want to diagnose this quickly, if you're dedicated to building a meaningful career, then make the investment of working with a career coach. Because the way to diagnose this is, see, nobody's going to spell the need out for you. Nobody is going to spell out. Your diagnosis is not one day going to appear in the paper when you wake up and it says, hey, you know what, this is your problem. It's not going to happen that way. You're going to experience symptoms, right? You're going to experience symptoms. You're feeling unappreciated. You're feeling that you don't get the credit you deserve. You're feeling underpaid. You're feeling underemployed. You've been hired for the kind of work that nobody else wants to do. You've been hired for your hands, not for your brain. You're feeling overworked. You're feeling that your age is working against you. You have an employment gap, or you've been fired. You make it till the interview, but you don't know how to break through. You don't know how to negotiate salary. So, these are the symptoms that you will experience. All of these symptoms are associated with an underlying infection, with an underlying disease. Just the way when you get the common cold, right? You get symptoms. You experience a fever. You may have throat pain. You may feel congested. Your sinuses may hurt. You may have some body ache. So please understand, a career coach does that diagnosis to be able to uncover, is this a bacterial infection or is this a viral infection? And the cure that they will prescribe will be very different based on that diagnosis. So see, it's very easy to aspire to a wonderful life. It's very easy to aspire to a great outcome. I want a wonderful house, a loving family, a fit body, excellent relationships, lots of money in the bank account. It's not difficult to do that. But these are outcomes. The outcomes will be delivered if you follow the right process. So if you want to lose weight, the process you need to follow is diet and exercise. It's a $61 billion industry, right? And the answer is diet and exercise, right? And there are so many fads and systems around it. Everything you need to be able to solve that problem you have, right? And yet people are unable to solve that problem. That's the value of expertise. Experts help you solve it in a manner where you will go through that break point, right? So the outcomes are the results of following a process. The problem is you have an existing identity, right? And that existing identity, if it does not want to do the hard work in the gym and the sacrifice in the kitchen of making healthy eating choices, it's not going to be able to follow the process of diet and exercise to lose the weight and reach that outcome. If your existing identity believes in sitting in front of the television and watching Netflix or Amazon Prime instead of putting in that hard work, it's your existing identity that will prevent you from being able to follow the process. And then what happens? Your disappointment with yourself deepens. You've let one more failure accumulate and define that you're not capable of succeeding. Whereas please understand, growth occurs on the boundary of support and challenge, right? So you have to push yourself to that point of failure to grow. But when you do it in the hands of an expert, they are able to help you understand what was limiting you and then be able to move you past those limitations. So if you want to diagnose it and accelerate your journey to a more inspired life and a more inspired career, I mean, meaningful change in a meaningful time frame. I have students who have broken through in 21 days because they put in the hard work. I have students who have taken 90 days. I have students who've taken 120 days. Now, you work the system will work for you. The point here simply is, don't jump into the English Channel if you're afraid of swimming in the swimming pool, right? And take it one step at a time. Work with someone who can help you. So that's what I would say in being able to diagnose the problem and then being able to fix it.
All right, thank you. That brings us to the end of this episode. And I think you've very comprehensively addressed a serious pain point for most working professionals. So before we close, can you tell us more about your live workshop?
It's a 4-hour workshop. And I think you'll have to go to my website to look at the schedule because it doesn't happen all the time. And it's a live workshop. There are no recordings and no replays. You must attend this workshop live. What do you teach in this workshop? So the outcomes of somebody understanding and following the system is that I will introduce you to the framework of how to 3x your salary in less than 90 days. Right? I will help you understand how you can truly create career acceleration. Okay? How you can achieve, an accelerated career trajectory. So, you will take 1/3 the standard time. If somebody takes 3 years to achieve this progress, this promotion, you will do it in a year. Somebody takes 3 months, you will do it in a month. Because see, this is a system that you're going to use repeatedly. Okay? You will identify these uncommon problems, then you will align yourself and solve them. And then once you've solved them, the rewards will flow back to you. And then you will uncover the next set of extraordinary needs. So, the way you use the system, this is a one-time investment that gives you, it's like winning the lottery every year, right? Over every performance cycle. I was speaking to a student recently, and this gentleman had a salary of around 35 lakhs. Annual salary was 35 lakhs. before he joined the program, and he took 45 days to break through. And his salary jump was from 35 lakhs to 85 lakhs. He said, "Sir, I invested this X amount in your course, and this is the return I've got. I've got a 50 lakh return in 45 days. Tell me one stock on the stock market that can generate this return in 45 days." And I said, "Well, thank you for putting it that way. It's a very impactful statement. But please understand, so, creating a 3x in less than 90 days, learning how to accelerate and build an exponential career journey, being able to target any company and any job, because these needs, they exist in every industry, at every level of experience, in every single business function, right? So it is agnostic as far as the industry or the function or the years of experience that you have, right? And then truly being able to differentiate yourself as you walk the job search and application journey. Because see, for candidates, this is a blind journey. You don't know who else is applying. And there could be people who are much better qualified. Their education is significantly better aligned to the position. Their experiences are far deeper and far stronger. Their soft skills are much more developed. And that is why the traditional process leads to so much disappointment, because there's one open vacancy, there's one position, and there are hundreds of people who are applying. So, there is a better way to do it. And that's the framework that I introduce you to in my masterclass.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. See you in the next episode.
See you in the next episode. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Career Headquarters, the most comprehensive career podcast dedicated to building exceptional careers. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share this with someone you think would benefit from the ideas and the insights shared on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple, Google, Overcast, Castro, or Breaker. If you want to learn more about building an extraordinary career for yourself, I invite you to come attend my free Power Up Your Career live workshop. In this workshop, I will teach you the step-by-step process of landing your dream job in less than 90 days. The link to register is in the description below, and I will see you live at the workshop.